Hi guys, I'm Chris from Luware, and today I'm joined with James Cadman, our Head of Professional Services here in the UK. Throughout the session, we'll be looking at our team solutions that we have, and we'll also be giving you a sneak preview of something that we've been working on behind the scenes. And yeah, over to you, James.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate the intro. So, as Chris said, today we're going to talk about our Teams add-ons for customer services, and got something really exciting to be able to show you. Before we get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about Luware in case you're not familiar. So we're a team of actually over 80 employees now. We've been around in this industry for about 10 years. And the nice thing about what Luware's been doing over that time is we've had this singular focus on bringing customer service into the Microsoft UC platform. So we've been around since the OCS or Office Communication Services days. So we've got plenty of experience at bringing together a unified contact center or customer service experience for our customers. As you can see, we've got some pretty nice big numbers there around the customers, users and interactions, and that's growing at a rapid pace as we go through the big migration to the cloud. So we are working with Microsoft to get into the Connected Contact Center certification program. So we're actually one of the first providers in this certification program with Microsoft. We're working to go through all the technical and the sort of compliancy stuff to get the purple badge that says we're certified for Microsoft Teams, which is going to be really cool. So let's talk a little bit about the solutions that we've got at Luware. So along the top line there, you can see the stuff that we can do today. So we're already working really hard with an awful lot of customers in the team space to bring rich, full contact center functionality with our Stratus agent platform to agents who are based on Microsoft Teams as the endpoint. If you need something a little bit more straightforward, a little bit simpler, so you don't necessarily need the full skill-based routing and things like that, then you can go for our Stratus Team solution today, which again is designed to work with Microsoft Teams for the agent endpoints and gives you the flexibility with nice switchboards and operator consoles and broadcast routing, etc. Finally, as you can see there, we've got our switchboard, which has proven to be a really popular add-on for Microsoft Teams, allowing your switchboard operators to come onto Microsoft Teams, and without any additional software, they just need to be able to open the app in their browser. They can service those front door calls coming into the organization, find the right people and get the calls transferred across, which has been really popular in the market. What we're really here to talk about today, though, is really that stuff along the bottom line. You see it's greyed out at the moment, and it's sort of one box that covers all three of those use cases. So we've been working really hard in the background for quite a while on something quite in secret, something new that we call Nimbus. We call it the sidekick for Microsoft Teams to save customer service. Really excited to be able to talk to you about this today, because Nimbus is something that, as I said, we've had internally and we've been building for quite some time. So to be able to start taking the curtain back and showing you some of this is really exciting as well. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it, and I'm actually going to give you a sneak preview as well. So we're going to see what it actually looks like and how it really works. So before we get to the cool demos and seeing it in real life, let's just talk a little bit about the history of Nimbus and what the product actually is. So Microsoft has got their three pillars of how to do contact center solutions in Microsoft Teams. You start out at the simple end with Connect, and Connect solutions are typically separate hosted solutions where you often find that they're using basic integrations of phone numbers, for example, and just sending calls into Teams endpoints. In the middle there, we've got Connect and Extend, and that's where you start to introduce some of the integrations with the Microsoft Teams platform. So typically this is things like presence tracking or user synchronization and login and that sort of thing. But it stops shy of being a fully native and integrated solution, because it's still typically whatever the product was in the old sort of monolithic architecture, but switched over with some new APIs. Where things start to get truly exciting though is on the right hand side with the power and extend functionality, and this is where we're making use of all of these new SDKs and APIs that are coming out of Microsoft. So think about Graph API and running in Azure and all those native elements. So that's where Nimbus sits, and you can see our sidekick there down on the bottom of the slide to sort of demonstrate that. But this is really where things start to get quite exciting in terms of what you can do with Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Azure as a platform. So specifically, what is Nimbus? Nimbus is our solution to remove some roadblocks for you. So typically when you're doing a migration from whatever it is that you had before to a unified communications and collaboration platform, we typically find that there's a few roadblocks that get in the way, particularly if you're coming from an old legacy kind of PBX where you've got a lot of the features included for you. One of the big ones, and this is where our core focus is on telephony workers. So these add-ons are going to be able to integrate your customer communications into Teams. So taking all those benefits of being a unified collaboration platform and taking that all the way to the front line to where your customers are actually asking for your assistance and help and contact. It's built natively on Azure, and we're going to come on to that in a little bit more detail in the next slide. But we're really tightly locked into Microsoft's platform strategy. So all of this is building upon the great work that Microsoft has been doing in the Azure stack, and really giving you the opportunity to sweat the investment that you're making into Teams and get the best out of it. So let's have a think about some of those non-technical but more sort of architectural points. I really like this diagram actually, because it shows all of the things that you're probably already paying for to some degree with your Office or Microsoft 365 subscription, and Nimbus really allows you to bring all those things together and use them to maximum benefit of your customers. So we're using cognitive services for these really beautiful, rich text-to-speech announcements. This is really great because it kind of democratizes those really top-end quality TTS voices that traditionally were the purview of, the likes of Amazon and Google with their voice assistants. And it's really interesting because this is what our customers and your customers are now expecting in terms of the quality with a TTS announcement. And the beauty here is that you can really start to use those great quality engines in your customer service flows as well. We're integrating with Power BI to give you that really rich, detailed historical reporting data and business insights. We've got Power Automate integration so that you can actually use what used to be called Flow to build all sorts of interesting use cases and integrations with pretty much anything actually, to be able to bring in data about customers and treat them the way that they should be based on things like account status or location and things like that. When it comes to getting the calls into a service within Nimbus, it's really straightforward. If the phone number exists in your Teams tenant today, and that could be via direct routing from a SIP carrier, or it could be via calling plans, it could be a service number. Both of those are supported by Nimbus on day one, so you'll be able to hook those numbers up to a calling service within Nimbus and treat your customers with your agents natively taking the calls in the Teams client, which is really exciting. So I think that's probably enough with slides. So let's go and have a look. What does this actually mean? What does it look like in reality? So in this first quick short demo, I'm going to show you how easy it is to create a new team. So very simply in the Teams client, we can create a new team or we can use an existing one. In this case, I'm going to create one for general contact for Luware. I'm going to create a new team from scratch, and when we get to the next stage we're going to be asked who should the members of the team be. Really nice and easy. So I'm going to add my colleague Artie. She's going to be an agent in this calling service, so the kind of person that's answering calls on behalf of customers. And then I'm going to add Chris actually, who's going to be an administrator. So to make Chris an admin, which means he can control things in Nimbus, we simply set him as the owner in the Teams group. And then he gets all the privileges he needs to be able to change workflows, announcements, etc. So with our team created, we just need to install the Nimbus app, and we do that by clicking plus in the tab section, choosing Nimbus, and when we click on the add button, we're going to go to a really simple and straightforward installation wizard. A couple of things you'd normally expect to do, like agreeing to terms and conditions. but it also then gives you the chance to tweak the name of the service and tweak the name of the UPN or the resource account that's going to be created within your Azure tenant. When we hit save, it's going to communicate with our backend and provision a bot in our core infrastructure. And then we're going to be presented with the Nimbus dashboard, albeit without much information in there because there's a couple of final steps we need to do. So we're going to go down and we're going to click settings there in the left hand side of the screen. And we're going to scroll down to the bottom of the settings page. And we can see a couple of options for provisioning, which we'll come back to. But now I'm just going to enable PSTN and I'm going to assign a phone number that already exists in my Teams tenant. And once I hit save and apply, then I can download the PowerShell script and ask one of the administrators of our tenant to run that, and it will create the resource account and assign the phone number and assign the licenses that are needed. Or we can even do an Azure runbook deployment as well, so you can automate the process of change approval and implementation of those steps, which is really cool. So you could see there that it was actually pretty simple. I mean, that was roughly a minute and a half to 2 minutes, and we went from a standing start to, in effect, having everything ready to go with a new line of business, a new inbound route for our team to answer customer service queries directly in Microsoft Teams. All of the membership is just taken natively from Teams, right? You don't need to have all these sort of complex access privileges and things like that. Very simply, if you're a member of the team, then you can take calls. If you're an owner of the team, not only can you take calls, but you can also have the privileges to make changes to settings, workflows, announcements, etc. And you see there rapid speed to market, particularly as we move into changes in all sorts of industries. Speed to market becomes a real competitive advantage and a real differentiator. So being able to stand up new services to quickly bring a new product in and things like that is really, really valuable to everyone, I think. So moving on to the next demo, we're going to show you how to change a workflow, and this is one of my favorite things actually, because this is all about empowering those owners of the team group. So let's get on with it. So we've already installed Nimbus within this particular team, so we're going to navigate to the Nimbus tab, and we're going to just make it a bit bigger so we've got plenty of breathing space. And you can see this is all native inside the Teams client. We haven't had to install any new software. And when we go to the workflow tab in the settings, we can see a graphical representation of how the calls are going to make their way through the service. And in this case, I'm just going to show you, for example, how many different TTS languages we can use. And these are all of the ones that are available in the Azure speech runtimes. I'm going to just tweak the announcement there to make a small change. Something that typically you would have needed a change request and involvement from the IT service desk to do. But actually within a minute or so, we can be tweaked and changed and up and running in no time. It's a really good example of a simple day-to-day change that's going to be made by a supervisor of a team. But there is times where perhaps we want to do something a little bit more advanced. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up a new routing option so that when it's Christmas, I want to play my customers a slightly different announcement. I want to perhaps wish them a Merry Christmas. So I'm going to drop a new announcement file in there. I'm going to then disconnect the conversation at the end of the discussion. So we'll just drop that in place. So you can see a very simple sort of drag and drop interface. And then from the opening hours check, I'm going to say that when the calendar is set to holidays, go to this announcement instead of going the normal way. We're going to go through that announcement and then we're going to do a disconnect. Now, very simply and easily, exactly the same as you saw just a few seconds ago, we can edit the text of our announcement, and that's going to be sent up to the Azure speech runtimes to render that really beautiful audio file that's then going to be placed into the call service. And at Christmas time, you'll get a really nice kind of personalized announcement for your customers, so you get to wish them a Merry Christmas. So when it comes to workflows, we've got that graphical workflow editor, which is makes life really easy. You really don't need to be an IT professional to understand what's going on with a Nimbus call flow. Anybody who's an owner can easily edit the announcements or create these sort of dynamic routing rules. And we've got some really exciting things in store to enhance the capabilities of those things you can drop onto the canvas in the future as well. We've got this native integration with Azure, That means that you get all of those really great text-to-speech announcements. Not only multiple languages, as we're sort of quite used to, but in fact now multiple different accents within certain languages. So if you do want an Irish or Scottish accent from your TCS, then you can actually have that with Nimbus today. These changes are made instantly to the services as well. So basically the next call that comes in after you hit that save and apply button, it's going to be taking that new workflow layout and the new announcements pretty quickly. Alright, so we've spoken about how to create a team. We've had a quick look at what the workflows look like. But I think where the rubber meets the road is quite often how are we going to serve customers, and when we get down to it, what does it actually look like to take a call? Obviously there's a lot of different approaches to that sort of thing. We like to take the simple approach of no software needed and just a native Teams call. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm here at my desktop, and this is just a standard Windows desktop. I've got no special software apart from the Teams client installed. And I'm currently an agent. I've opted into the queue, so I'm ready to take a service call if one comes in. So I could be getting on with any other work that I need to do day to day. And here we can see on the normal Teams toast, we've got a call coming in for the solutions hotline. So I can immediately see the context of the call is going to be a solutions type call. And when I answer that, very simply, you can see that I'm joined into a Teams call with the customer, which in this case is an internal customer. So we've got the full name automatically. If I switch back to Teams, we can go to the My Sessions tab, and this is so cool. This is where we now get to have that single pane of glass view. So we've got all of the caller's information on the left hand side. We can see how long we've been connected to the caller, how many times they called, and we can see all sorts of things about transcriptions, task completion codes, and much more besides coming up in the future as well. So serving customers is actually really simple, right? If you can answer a call in Microsoft Teams, then you can be an agent within the customer service lines. That starts to become really powerful for flexing resources in and out of your customer service lines. Your training is almost zero. If you can take a call, then you can take a call and serve your customers, which makes life really easy. And that My Sessions dashboard really starts to push us towards that genuine single pane of glass. And there's even more exciting stuff coming on that Sessions dashboard in the future as well, which we can't wait to share with you when the time's right. So we've seen some calls, we know how to answer them. We saw a slight hint about some personal empowerment in that Sessions dashboard there as well. But actually something that we're pushing quite hard on now is the idea of empowering the agents in customer service. You know, we're getting to that point where people are really passionate about service, and we want to be able to allow our customers to drive their own personal performance. So we're going to take a look at the personal reporting dashboard as well now. So switching into Teams, we can go to the Nimbus app on the left hand bar, and we can see in one place all of our personal reporting. We can see all of the different service queues or teams that we're a member of, and we can opt in and out very easily across those. And then we get to have a breakdown of not only our day to day, but our personal performance. And this is just literally me as an individual and my personal performance over the last day all the way up to the last 30 days. And you can see I can zoom in and out and change the time base very quickly and easily there as well. So you can really start to see how, you know, should I be taking more calls? Am I answering my calls quick enough? Is the time I'm spending with customers the right amount of time as well? So it's really, really useful. It's also great because if an agent is a member of multiple different services, then they see in one place all of the calls in queue across all of the services. So they can keep an eye out for that important caller that's calling back that they want to take. So last up on the video demos, I just want to quickly run you through what it looks like for the reporting dashboard. It's really cool actually because we have our real-time reporting that is on a per service basis. So here you can see one particular team, and what I'm looking at now is all of the calls in the queue. I can see how long the longest has been waiting, and I can see how many are currently connected to my colleagues there. So we've got 3 in queue and 3 connected. Beneath that, you can actually see the current status of all the calls in the queue as well. So we can see if they're in IVR, if they're connected to my colleagues, then we see that data as well, and we can see when they join the queue. Along the bottom, we've got our detailed analytics, and that's showing me trend analysis in real time to show, is the performance of my contact center going up or down? Am I getting more or less calls compared to the last 30 days? And this is all calculated on the fly on a per call basis. On the right hand side, we can see all my team members. Because I'm an owner of this team, I can turn them on and off, or enable and disable them for this particular service. Switching to the reporting tab, we can see a bit of a deeper insight now. So we can again go up to the 30 days, but this is now looking across all of the calls within this particular team service. All of those high level averages that you'd expect to see, like call volumes and reachability, is all right there. And then we can chart that out over time. So you can see across that bar chart, we can go down to 48 hours, for example, and we can see hour of day. And if we use our scroll wheel to scroll forwards, we're actually going to be able to go down to 15-minute resolution. So you can see how things change during the course of the day as well. So over on the bottom left, we also had a little view there of the member statistics. So you can see how the people in your team are sort of stacking up against each other as well, which is really, really useful. So the dashboard in Nimbus gives us that real-time reporting view. You can see the queue live. We can go down to some historical trends, and we even get to see the agent performance as well. So that's just a little sneak peek of what Nimbus has to offer, and we're really only scratching the surface there, but this is a sneak preview, an early look at what we're about to launch. So with that, I'm going to hand back over to Chris. I think we've got a bit of Q&A session where we can talk a little bit more. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, James. Thoroughly enjoyed your presentation, and Nimbus looks pretty cool. Quite like the sidekick aspect of it. Yeah, we do have a couple of questions that have come in. So the first one that we have says, you have worked for many years within the customer service industry. What are the biggest challenges and trends that you are seeing today?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually, because I think that we're seeing quite a lot of changes in the industry at large in the way that customers are served. I think that the biggest one is that we're seeing a trend towards lower volumes of people, but those people are really generally much higher skilled. So I think the big driver behind this is actually, everyone's been speaking about AI a lot. So a big buzzword in the call center and customer service industry has been around the artificial intelligence and bots. And whilst that certainly is a factor, I don't believe that it's actually as big a factor as the sort of the buzzwords would have you believe. I think what organisations are doing is being much smarter about what their customers need and when they need it. So we're seeing a massive uptake in community support, self-help services, and really trying to be more proactive about sort of guessing what the customer would need from an organisation rather than waiting for them to contact in and trying to iron out those sorts of kinks. So I think the result of that is that there's far less need for people to make contact in the first place, and that drives a general shift away from really large volume, low skill contact centres where you're sort of answering a lot of very basic questions, and switching that round to much smaller volumes of people, much smaller volumes of calls, and actually a much more high touch, high skill environment. And I think that's where ideas of empowering the individuals with their data is really valuable as well, because these people, they want to be managed in a different way, right? They want to be empowered with their own capabilities and to do the right thing at the right time.
Makes complete sense. Yeah, I probably agree with you on that. Another question that's come up is, Teams, as we know it, is more commonly used for collaboration work. So for instance, internal chats, meetings, collaborating on documents, etc. So what benefit do businesses have for using Teams as their contact center or their customer service tool in general?
So I think the benefits are really big. If we look for a moment at the idea of the simplicity and the ease of use, what it means is that anybody in the organisation can become a customer service rep. So all these pockets of knowledge that were across the organisation and sort of hidden away before, and not accessible to the front line. Now actually they can go on the front line, and I think the idea of what the front line is, that's likely to evolve as well. If we think about a retailer, for example, typically a very, very large peak towards the end of the financial year, when Christmas is coming round, large volumes coming in. And we see historically, there's an expectation for everybody in the business, even the big sort of management and CEO, to spend a week on the phones. I think the benefit that we've got here is that there's no retraining for them, right? They just need to effectively opt in to take the calls, and then as long as they can answer a call in Teams, it can mix in with the other work that they've got to do, and they can continue doing all of that sort of day-to-day stuff. But now all of a sudden you've got more hands on the pump and more resource availability to reduce your queue times and provide that exceptional service. So I think it's a massive benefit, really, and it unlocks a whole heap of powers in the organisation.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Having worked in retail in the past, I do agree there are some companies that, other members that aren't usually part of the customer service team would jump in and help. Okay, touching on Luware, you guys have obviously a wide range of solutions available for teams, as well as Nimbus, which very grateful for you to giving us a sneak peek on. So how do Luware solutions actually integrate within their customers' Microsoft strategy?
So the real benefit here is that anybody that's making that transformation from, be it a Skype for Business sort of on-prem or online solution, or even an older PBX, moving across to Teams, it's a huge investment. And it's not just a technical investment, you're investing in a lot of change management and adoption as well. So the beauty of a product like Nimbus is that it's a native part of that strategy. So you can move everything across into that new world, and you can really make the most of the investment you're making in the Microsoft stack. So all of those, and it's not just Teams actually, it's things like the Azure Active Directory where your identity management's going to sit, and it's that idea of that one sort of platform that's going to provide all of the, not only the customer services, but collaboration and email, document sharing, and give you that really robust identity and compliance across the whole stack. So it's the way to think of Nimbus is it's not something that runs separate. It's a part of your Teams tenant, and it integrates. It's an app that's installed within your tenant. So it's making use of all of those products and services that you're already investing in. So why not take it the extra step?
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned these buzzwords that everyone hears about, for instance, integrated, native. These are buzzwords that we hear in the industry quite a lot. Can you give us a short explanation of what exactly they mean?
Yeah, of course. So typically, we use the term integrated to say that the two things know about each other somehow. So if you think about customer service in Microsoft Teams, you've typically got your agents who are in Teams. They've probably got a phone number if they're using the phone system, licenses in there as well. And then you'll have some other platform, which is perhaps where your IVRs are, your queuing engine. And if we think about the simple integration, it's typically that the contact center side, at least to a basic level, knows something about the team side. So it can range all the way from very simple of being, what is the phone number of the agents, all the way up to, as you've just seen with Nimbus, where it's fully natively integrated. So that native part is a key distinction, where we've actually built it from the ground up to make use of all of these new capabilities from Microsoft that allow us to not only know about people in Teams, but actually control calls and take all of those extra benefits and all those enhanced capabilities in there as well. So it really what separates it out is the full rich experience that an agent gets for collaboration they can have on their customer service side as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thanks for clarifying that. Going back to your demo, actually, you showed us a great demo of how you installed Nimbus into your Teams client, and this looked pretty easy and fairly quick to do. I think you mentioned it was like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. Um, why do you think that ease of use is so important in the world today?
Yeah, I think that particularly in a competitive environment, then speed to market becomes one of the most critical factors, and that can range from product launches, so being the first to market on a new consumer item, for example, and having all of the stuff ready to serve those customers from day one is really valuable. But also actually in terms of responsiveness, so if we think about government entities as a good example, being able to stand up new services to deal with events as they happen, and they might not be, you might not be able to pre-plan for some of these things. If we look across parts of the US over the summer, for example, we had some issues with wildfires. Being able to set up very quickly an emergency relief line in that sort of instance would be really useful. Similarly, you could be someone like a HR outsource company and being able to stand up very quickly a new inbound phone number where you've got a whole team of experts who can answer those queries about what the latest changes in the regulations that hit this week mean. It can keep the main customer service lines free to focus on what they need to focus on, but also give customers the ability to get the answers they need very quickly. And I think it's almost game changing, because traditionally this was the sort of thing that you would have needed IT services to get involved, so change requests and all sorts of project management to implement some new setup, and someone with really technical skills to go and program this all up. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to take all of that complexity away, and we're trying to keep the complexity in the system and actually present a really nice and powerful but simple user interface. So pretty much anyone can turn their hand to setting up the call flow, and it takes it away from the techies, and I think that's really valuable as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, James, I know that you are a very, very busy person, so I really appreciate you taking time out your day to show us this behind the scenes of what Luware has been up to. So I guess the only question left now is, if there are some customers out there who are looking for solutions and they like what you've shown, potentially what Luware already has, or Nimbus, what should they do now?
Oh yeah, I think the clue's on the screen. That if you go to luware.com/en/preview, we've set up a bit of a secret page for anyone that watches us on this webinar. So any of our current attendees can go ahead and sign up for some more information there, and in effect you'll be the first to know when we're ready to actually come out in the open and launch the product. So we'd love to have you on that journey, and can't wait to see what you do with it. And Chris, thanks for having me today.